My name is Alessio Antoniolli. I'm the director of GASWORKS and the Triangle Network. GASWORKS is a non-profit organisation based in South London. We have various different programs within our building and within our mission. We house studios for London-based artists. We also run a program of 16 international residencies a year, whereby we invite artists who are based outside the UK to spend 3 months with us. We have a program of exhibitions. We do 4 exhibitions every year, both solo shows and group shows, mostly new commissions. We have a program of education and participation activities that look at how local communities can be involved in art practices. And we're part of a network, as I mentioned, called the Triangle Network, which is basically a network, as it says, of small, emerging, most of the time, organizations that work with artists at early stages of their career, or are working to create a space where artists can engage in dialogue, make new work in a more experimental, in a more sort of in a way where, in a space where artists can make mistakes, can learn from each other, can try to produce something that is much more about professional development and research than product itself. We believe that we're sort of at the beginning of a chain of art organizations or institutions that go from being the little people at the bottom of the chain. We're really starting to create a space for artists that perhaps haven't had the opportunity that way. And we feel that that's a very important place to be in order for artists to then progress and then get opportunity to work with other institutions or certainly sort of develop their practice in a way that makes sense for them. I studied art history in London, got an MA in art history from Birkbeck College. And while I was at college, I started working at GASWORKS. I've actually worked for the organisation for 16 years now. The only thing that I think is important and needs to be considered when starting an organisation, and I still think of it in relation to GASWORKS, is making sure that you respond to a need. And I still feel that GASWORKS does address a need in London, which is that of being a bridge with the international, that of providing space for emerging artists in a city that is insanely expensive and where the artists are, in many cases, the first to pay the price of the regeneration or the rising costs of living in the city. So for me, it really is about looking at the local context. And once you've got that, once you're very well rooted there, then you can start looking outside and see how you can benefit from what's happening around you, but also how you can be a benefit for what happens outside or what happens around you. I don't think the residencies are important for every artist. I think they're important for some, and I think it is like everything. There isn't one recipe that everybody's gonna like or that everybody needs either. Certainly, I think that a lot of the more emerging artists, I don't know, the artists that are sort of like very active now are very aware that we live in a context that keeps expanding, or certainly is expanded in both an exciting but also problematic way. And residencies are an opportunity to explore this idea of being international, not being international. What does it mean? I don't think anybody has a real answer, and I think that any answer would be very unsatisfactory about what is international and what is not international. But certainly, we're all flying around to talk at art fairs and biennales, and artists are moving. Things aren't so isolated or sort of certainly located in a very small place anymore. And I think that the residencies are an opportunity to provide a space to explore what that means, how that could impact on their practice, to find out who they're speaking to, who's their public as well. You know, it's all very complex and rich and sophisticated in its own way. But I certainly don't think that everybody needs to do a residency. That's absolutely not true. But it's the same way that, you know, not every artist works within the commercial sphere. There are many artists that whose work or whose interest sits outside of that. And I think it's about thinking about art as something that it's bigger than just something that sits in a gallery or something that sits in a residency context. But it's all these various possibilities, and we just provide some, but certainly not all. And that's, I think, what we can do.